In the town of Ikom, there lived a woman named Inyobong. She was fondly called Mama Emem. She was known far and wide for her pepper soup. It wasn't just any pepper soup. It was the most delicious anyone had ever tasted. Every evening, her shop would be crowded with people from all parts of the town, eager to get their hands on a bowl. There was always a long queue outside her shop before she even opened, with people waiting for hours. The aroma of her pepper soup filled the air, drawing customers closer. "Please, Mama Emem, serve me first," some would plead, shoving to get ahead of others. Fights occasionally broke out as tempers flared over who would be served first, but Inyobong hardly cared. She was rude to her customers, often snapping, "If you don't want to wait, leave." Yet no one ever left. They tolerated her attitude because the pepper soup was just that good. No one could resist her pepper soup, especially the meat. What really fascinated people was the meat in her pepper soup. It didn't taste like any other meat they were used to. "What kind of meat do you use?" people would often ask, licking their fingers after eating. Her response was always the same: "Goat and rabbit. That is my secret combination," she would say with a sly smile. Her customers accepted this explanation, even if the meat tasted strange. They were too entranced by the flavor. No one could deny that they were addicted. People would eat at her shop and still take portions home. Each day, Inyobong sold at least 5 large pots of pepper soup, making her wealthier by the day. One evening, Inyobong's shop was particularly busy. A known meat seller from the village, Akpan, was seated in a corner, enjoying his bowl of pepper soup. He chewed slowly, savoring each bite. The flavor was unique as always, and the meat tender. Akpan knew meat better than anyone in the village, but something about this pepper soup puzzled him. "Where do you get your meat from, Mama Emem?" Akpan asked after a few moments of silence. He was really curious. Inyobong paused briefly, then shot him a guarded look. "I get my meat from a butcher in Ugep town," she said with a shrug. "It's a private arrangement. He sells meat to me at a better price." Akpan nodded, but something about her response didn't sit right with him. The butchers in their town were known for offering the best quality and price. Who could this mysterious supplier be? He shrugged off the thought, unwilling to dwell on it for too long. After all, the pepper soup was irresistible. One other day, Inyobong's shop was packed with customers as usual, people devouring her pepper soup with gusto. The air was filled with sounds of clinking spoons and satisfied murmurs. Suddenly, a loud sigh cut through the chatter. Umar, one of the customers, stood up abruptly. His face was pale. "What is this?" he exclaimed, spitting out something out of his mouth. It felt like a thumb. The room fell silent. "Show us," someone called out, leaning forward. Umar shakily held out a small piece of chewed meat, but it was too mangled to tell what it had been. The crowd exchanged glances. "You are just making up stories," another customer scolded him. "Do not disturb us." Inyobong stormed over. "How dare you accuse me of such nonsense? Get out of my shop," she shouted. her voice full of fury. Reluctantly, Umar left, muttering under his breath. The other customers returned to their meals, dismissing the incident as a ridiculous outburst. But for some, a seed of doubt had been planted. Though Umar had been thrown out, whispers about the strange thumb incident began to spread through the town. People began to wonder, yet they continued to visit Inyobong's shop. The pull of her pepper soup was stronger than their suspicions. Despite the rumors, Inyobong's business grew even larger and she kept her composure, serving her customers as usual. People flocked to her shop, not just from the town, but from the neighboring villages. They just wanted a taste of her famed dish. One afternoon, the usual crowd gathered outside Inyobong's shop waiting for her to open. As she began serving her customers, a commotion erupted outside. A mob of angry villagers stormed into the shop, dragging a man alongside them. It was Edikan, Inyobong's husband, bruised and bloodied, his clothes torn. "Is this your husband?" a man from the mob demanded, pointing at the disheveled Edikan. Inyobong's heart pounded in her chest. "Yes, what is going on?" The leader of the mob stepped forward. "We caught him trying to kidnap a girl from the market. He confessed to supplying human parts for your pepper soup." The crowd erupted in shock. Inyobong's blood ran cold, but she quickly tried to deny the accusation. "No, that is a lie. I used goat and rabbit." But the mob was not convinced. They seized Inyobong and the tension in the room mounted. "Tell us the truth, or we will make you talk," one of them shouted. Faced with the threat of violence, Inyobong's resolve crumbled. Her voice shook as she spoke. "Yes, it's true. The meat is from human body parts." Screeches and cries filled the shop. Some of the customers dropped their bowls in horror, realizing what they had been eating for months. Inyobong continued her confession, her voice barely audible. It was Edikan's idea. He would kidnap people from nearby towns, hypnotize them, and take them to a designated location where he would kill them, cut their body parts into pieces, and bring them home. "We will then freeze the meat and I will use it to cook the pepper soup." The mob stared at her in disbelief, rage building among them. "How could you do such a thing?" one man yelled. While the crowd surrounded Inyobong and her husband, one man among the mob narrated how Edikan was caught. That day, he had kidnapped a 17-year-old girl, but someone who recognized her noticed she was acting strange, as if in a trance. When they confronted Edikan, he panicked and tried to flee, but he was quickly caught. Under intense interrogation and torture, Edikan confessed everything. He admitted to kidnapping people, hypnotizing and killing them, and delivering their body parts to Inyobong for the pepper soup. He led them to the freezer in their home where he stored the dismembered bodies. When asked why, Edikan's answer was chillingly simple. "People were addicted to the taste," he said, "and we made a lot of money." The entire town was thrown into turmoil after the revelations. The once beloved pepper soup shop became the site of disgust and horror. Inyobong and Edikan were both arrested. At their trial, the judge was unsparing. For your heinous crimes, you are sentenced to life imprisonment, he declared. The town watched as Inyobong and her husband were led away in chains. Their empire built on blood and deception crumbled to dust. The lesson from this story is that greed and deceit, no matter how cleverly hidden, will eventually be exposed. Ill-gotten success built on harming others brings temporary gain but lasting consequences. True prosperity comes from honesty and integrity. This is where we will draw the curtain on this mind-blowing story. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. Also do well to comment, like and share this video to your family and friends. Until I come your way next time, remain blessed.